Welcome into the conversation today. This is Noteworthy. I'm your host, Philip Maurice. And as I said in the intro, we want to talk about being true to yourself and also added in there, avoiding deception. So, as I was thinking about this podcast and reaching out to a friend of mine who's going to join us on the podcast, so I want to get this little narrative ahead of time. I was thinking about the quote from Shakespeare. I'm not sure, from Hamlet. I'm not sure, scene and all that stuff. It doesn't matter. But there was a quote in there, and it's going to be paraphrased. But the quote was, "To thine own self be true." That was part of it, and then another part of it was, this is all information that the character was giving to his son as advice before he left, for the son left home. So he said, "To thine own self be true." And then he also said, "Don't be false to any man." And there's another part that he says, "To thy thoughts give no tongue, and no unapportioned thought his act." And to me, that just really made sense in terms of building character, in terms of talking about being true to oneself and being able to encourage us as men toward honesty, truth, and how important it is to build that into your character. While we're building our character, it's very important that we not only speak, but we also display in our actions. So I want to welcome to the conversation Dele Okawabi. Make sure I say his name right. Dele Okawabi. Am I getting it right, Dale?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. He leads the Wonder Association, a movement focused on collaborating with Jesus to build transformational organizations that drive the church's transition to Jesus' message about the integrated kingdom of God by the end of the 21st century. So I'll read that again, or I'll let him read it and say it to you. I want to make sure I'm getting it all right, so that's why I'm taking
Yeah,
my
you
time.
got it.
But
It's
I want to
perfect.
welcome you in,
Yep, that's perfect.
Dele Okwabi. So welcome you
Thank
in,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be with you all.
So go ahead and give your statement again, because I want to make sure that everyone understands the approach and the direction that you have and
Oh,
the
of
focus
course.
that you have
Yeah.
while you're
Yeah,
here
of course.
present in this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, of course. So wonder is an association. The heart and the focus of it is to wherever Jesus went, he
Yeah.
brought about wonder. He brought about this great wonder. He had lines everywhere he went. And so what our movement is focused on is literally reimagining the
Yeah.
21st century church. We're reimagining every single aspect of this thing we call church to try to bring out the wonder of it
Yeah.
that the founders struck, and so our heart is to create compelling organizations. So if you look through music, if you look through worship communities, aka churches, if you look through justice initiatives, whatever initiatives drive society, we look to partner with visionaries and visionary leaders and entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs to literally reimagine various industries to focus on bringing back wonder. And that's what the Wonder Association is. The association means we associate with various brands, various movements to do so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Definitely important that we reimagine and think about where we are as the church and where we're
Mm-hmm.
going, not just
Mm-hmm.
as individuals. We're not here just, individually spending time doing what we do when we call doing
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. We are supposed to be here intentionally uh,
Mm-hmm.
building the kingdom of God. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
believer, that is our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go ahead and just ask you a couple of questions, kind of get your point of view, what you think about
Mm-hmm.
uh, this topic, and And the first question I want to ask in light of this quote
Hmm.
um, from Shakespeare, how can this be applicable and valuable to us as men, to us as the church, as a
Hmm.
community, as a kingdom
Hmm.
building force that God has placed in the earth at this time?
Yeah,
How
the
can it,
quote. Yeah, the quote. Be true to thy own. Is that be true to thy own
to
self?
thine own self be true? Same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, how could this be applicable? I see this statement as a statement. It's a matter of identity. It's the
Yeah,
framework.
exactly.
It's an identity statement. And so the framework that I see internally, one has to first know who they are.
Right.
And I've been working with people for more than 15 years, intimately working with people. I guarantee you 75% of society do not know who they are.
Exactly.
You may have a 9 to 5 job. You may be a doctor. You may be a lawyer. All that doesn't mean you know who you are.
Right.
And so I think to be true to thy own self, one has to go through the process of asking, who am I?
Mm.
Who am I? What's my identity? Now, my wife, who's a sociologist, would argue who you are is actually you show up differently in every space that you are.
Yeah.
You show up differently at work. You change who you are based on your community. So I think the first applicable sense here would be for men to first do some gut wrenching work to figure out, forget my expression, but who the hell are you?
Yeah.
What is the thing? If I pick up a phone book and if I have a leak in my faucet at my home, right? I'm calling a plumber. I'm
Yeah.
not calling a dentist. I'm going straight to the plumbing section. So when I
Exactly.
say who are I, be true to your own self. If somebody was to open up a phone book and they needed something, what section would you be on? Have
Right.
you reduced who you are to that key of a thing? You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so for me to be true to my own self as a person of faith, which I understand everybody, your followers may not be all people of faith, my core identity of who I am is first, I'm a son.
Yeah.
I'm a son. That's my rooted identity. There could never be a rug pull. A rug pull. No one could ever shift that identity, no matter how much I'm rejected by the world. Mama could go crazy, wife could go crazy, kids could go crazy. Everybody could abandon me, but
Yeah.
that identity as a son, it's never gonna be shaken. Even if I abandon that,
Yeah.
God is still with me. So I think that's my core identity. And out of that, be true to thy own self. I'm a builder. I
Yeah.
build. I will build furniture. I will build people. I will build things. I will take something, and by the time I'm done with it, it's going to be transformed
Yeah.
into something of much more beauty, of much more value.
Yeah.
So, because I've done that core work to figure out who I am, and I recommend that for your listeners, now, practically, I'll should I pause? I have a couple more thoughts. Should I pause or just
No, no,
guide
no.
me?
You can
Okay.
go ahead.
So now that be true to thy own self, I'm a son, person of faith. I'm a builder. That's my core of who I am. I can now apply that quote.
Yeah.
I can now, if you're a man, if you're single, and if you're looking for a spouse, me as a builder, I know I have to be accompanied with somebody who also wants to build
Yeah.
because that's going to mess with my identity. And so I think if I was to put a bow around this idea of how could we be applicable, you have to know who you are. You have to claim that identity of who you are. And once you claim that identity, then the real journey begins in finding your community, in
Exactly.
finding who else is going to claim your true self along with you. And that's where life really begins.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. One thing that I always have spoken since I even all the way back to Abba Fathers is that the organization I had. is that before you'll ever know your purpose
Mhm.
and really understand it and be able to accept it, internalize it, and like you said, and then that's the starting point. That's the launching point. But
Mhm.
before you can ever know what you're supposed to
Mhm.
do, you gotta know who you are.
Mhm.
God expects us, and anybody who's really, really uh, tuned in to humanity expects us to know and show up as who we are. So if you get hired for a job, you go into the interview process and your resume says all this and stuff. When you show up on day one, they're expecting you to operate and function according to what your resume says. You can't get in there with a resume and be like, oh, well, I just want the job. Really don't know how to do anything electronically, or I don't know how to program computers. That's just not the
Yeah.
way that we expect. So uh, we as men need to have that same expectation of ourselves
Mhm.
first.
Mhm.
We need to understand that it's very important for us to show up as we were designed.
Mhm.
We all have a unique design as well as a unique purpose. We'll never get to that unique purpose and understanding and being able to fulfill it and
Mhm.
manifest it if we have not manifested as who we were created to be.
Mhm.
As
That's
a
really
lot of
good.
people try to find identity and say,
Mhm.
well, who I am is I'm an architect or I'm an
Mhm.
engineer or whatever. What you do, your gifting does not determine who you are, but it
There you
does
go.
have connection and determine the course toward your purpose. So God
Correct.
gave us that unique design. So it was paired with us having a unique purpose. But if we don't even know, um, you know, who we are, we can never ever get into using our gifts and stuff toward the purpose that we were intended and put here on the earth. So I totally agree with that, man. That makes light bulbs went off in my head. I was like,
Mhm.
ding, 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 ding. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really what I believe. That's the core of everything. Yeah, you show up in different spaces
Mhm.
with different identities, but the core of us, like
Mhm.
you said, I identify as a son.
Mhm. Mhm.
Being that I'm not responsible for my own self being here.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I identify as a son. And like you said, even if you uh, decide to take off that identity or to stray away from that identity, we see proof of that with the prodigal son.
Mhm.
He wanted to come out of that, but the fact was he had to come back to that in order
Mhm.
for him to realize the gifting and the blessing that was put there for him. Go ahead.
You know what's so interesting? What's so interesting about the story of the prodigal son? For any of your listeners, if you haven't looked this up, if you're not a person of faith, I don't care. It's going to impact your life about being a good father.
Yeah.
So, in that story of the son, I'm jumping topics here. The father won his son back
Right.
when he gave his son the unreasonable demand.
Yeah.
When that son asks for the most unreasonable thing, your father's inheritance, if I personally believe if that father would have said no,
Yeah.
it would have created tension, it
Yeah.
would have created a fight, and it would have created an argument. But that father gave his son something that teaches us about fatherhood. He gave his son something that was disrespecting him. He allowed his son to dishonor him.
Yeah.
And he by doing that, he showed his son a good aspect, a goodness of his fatherhood. And when his son was, messed up, that's what brought him back. He remembered his father. Anyway, I digress. I love that story.
But it's tied into what we're talking about because we're talking about being true to yourself.
Yeah.
That son was not being true to himself because if he were, he would know I'm not matured enough. I'm
Hmm.
not prepared enough. I am not trustworthy. I can't say that I can trust myself to not squander,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
without me learning. the value of the gift, the inheritance. One thing many don't know the value of the inheritance,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is money or whether we're talking about the inheritance of
Mm-hmm.
being able to have this slate here to start to build from.
Mm-hmm.
It's an inheritance. It's something that God invested in us, but to us, we've inherited this because we've not
Mm-hmm.
earned whatever we have when we accept Him as our Lord and Savior. It's
Mm-hmm.
only through Him justifying, saying, "Yeah, that's who you are, regardless of whether
Mm-hmm.
you act like it or not. Are gonna be my son."
Mm-hmm.
And no one
Correct.
can, like you said, can pull that rug out from under or can
Nope.
change that. It's set in stone from the beginning of our creation. God said, "This is going to be my son." He chose
Mm-hmm.
us. He didn't choose, him really, but he chose us and said and made it just like a king said, so let it be written, so let it be done.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is, in fact, going to be
Mm-hmm.
that. And the thing
It's
about it, I used to tell my sons that I realized that no matter what I do, or no matter what character flaws I have, or whether it does not change the fact that I was created as, or I was brought into the world as this. So
mm-hmm.
no matter what you do, it cannot erase who you are.
That's good.
Because we act
That's
out and do different things, because of situations in life, because of our ignorance and our unawareness of the the inheritance, the gift.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
And
know I'm way off topic too,
no,
but
no, no, no.
I
You're
feed
what's
into what you're
it,
saying about the truth and honesty. It's very important to
mm,
know who you are before you can ever do,
mm.
or ever,
you know,
got to be first before you can do. So
it's interesting what we're talking about here because the conversation we're seeding the conversation around these two juxtapositions, right?
yeah,
Who you are versus what you do.
yeah,
And if you think about it, most of the American or North American style of of raising as fathers, raising children, and even our own lives, everybody's focused on what are you going to do? What are
yeah,
you going to do? What are you going to be? What are you going to be? But what you decide to do may really not be who you are. And
right,
sometimes what you do, if you do the self discovery work, could be who you are. And I think in my again working with people, I know some people have a mental in the Christian culture we would use the word stronghold
yeah,
about this idea of purpose, right? Like,
yeah,
come on, are you kidding me? Do I really have this specific purpose? I'm just an accountant, right? But you have to think about it. One of my mentors said everything in creation, whether you believe on God or you don't, it doesn't matter. Everything in creation has a purpose. It is an ecosystem,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Everything gives value. So, how in the world could you not have a specific thing that you are called to contribute to? You're called to give life to. I think yourself, you mentioned coaching. That's something that there's a body of coaching, and you've identified it's men. These are the people I want to work with, and
yeah,
so you are. What you do is now who you are.
yeah, yeah,
And now you're adding values to that,
yeah.
um, and I think it's awesome.
And that's just that statement there, adding value is that the whole, and to me, this is what I
Hmm.
believe. I believe that we're all created to be and released into this realm as a
Hmm.
solution to
Hmm.
something that's not going the way that it should be.
Hmm.
Something that may be off, if it were a train off the track, needs
Hmm.
to be,
Yep.
brought back to its particular course that it's supposed to be on. So I believe
Hmm.
in, and that's what I speak. And I tell my children, I tell my friends, I tell everybody because I'm aware now. When I
Hmm.
wasn't, then, you know, I wasn't thinking this way. I had no
Hmm.
idea about
Hmm.
having parameters. I had no idea around framework of my life that God created a framework, and I can't just go and do whatever. I mean, I can,
Hmm.
but if I'm serious about relationship with Him, I'm going to come back to Him being the author and the finisher
Hmm.
of not only my life, my faith, but my design. He
Hmm.
created me. I didn't create myself. And so, and when a builder creates or anything, they're the ones to go to.
Yep.
If
Yep.
you're unaware and unclear about how to
Yep.
the function of this and how it will function best, you
Yep.
go and you seek out information from the creator.
Correct.
And so it is, with the Bible, and because we didn't create ourselves, we were created by him. We need to have some insight, some direction, some guidance,
Hmm.
you know, into why we're here, what we're to do while we're here. We can choose any particular thing that we want to do, uh, tied to our passion. Passion and purpose are not the same. They
Hmm.
can be connected, but they're
Hmm.
not the same.
They're
So I'm
not the
not
same.
we we're geared toward what we're passionate about or what we love to do in
Hmm.
this society. But, you know,
That's it.
in order to be true to ourselves, uh, sometimes the thing that we love to do, we love it until we don't. And then when we
Hmm.
don't, we're skipping trying to find something else, trying to look and search for whatever, uh, without, you know, knowing that, hey, I really need to sit down and do, like you said, do some real deep
Hmm.
digging, some introspection, get down real deep inside of myself and be truthful.
Hmm.
Is this the
Yeah.
best that I can do? Is
Hmm.
this really what I believe I'm supposed to do? So here I want to go
Hmm.
ahead and shift and move into
Sure.
another question. I wanted to ask also, you know, I think we've already talked about it, but how can we as men practice this as well as model this with our actions?
Yeah. So, you know, I think what you're asking me, just to confirm, how do we as men, once you know thyself, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
How do you then live that out? Is that what
Yeah,
I'm hearing you
exactly.
ask? Okay,
That's
cool,
simply
cool.
that.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna frame it up. Um I kind of the framing of this is this term. I helped start a branding organization. It's an amazing organization. They do branding, and one of the things in our process of branding and helping people or organizations understand who they are, this phrase of claiming identity came out.
Mhm.
Many conversations. So once you know who you are, this is a mystery that's revealed. It's not a one-time shot.
Mm.
It's a the process is claiming identity. So you know how when you go to a you travel, and if you ever had the unfortunate experience of your luggage being left behind, and then you call the airport and you have to go to the airport. There's work. You got to go to the airport and you have to look at all the other luggages and you have to say, no, this one is mine. And you
Right.
got to claim your luggage. Identity is the same thing.
Yeah.
Every day, every morning, you have to do the work. Just like you had to drive to the airport, wait in that line. Every day, if like you're a coach. That's kind of who you are. That's one of the things God has called you to do, your purpose. So every day you got to get up and you claim that identity. So I think the first step is people understanding that this practical step, it is the American verbiage in Greek, there's a continuous action verb, right? So I guess it's a continuous process, number one, of claiming that identity. Now, as men are doing that, they must set up a system and a structure. And here is where it starts getting tough. That system or structure has to have a vision,
Mhm.
has to have a mission, has to have values that they will never compromise. Never compromise. And once they establish that vision, mission, and values, in my humble opinion, they're trying to, um, they're just claiming that identity. And as they're claiming that identity, inevitably, practically, men will face rejection.
Mhm.
You will face rejection from a woman or other men if you're looking to get married. You'll face a rejection when you lead with that vision, when you lead with that mission, when you lead with that value, and it gets rejected. That's good news.
Yeah.
That's good news to know that
Right back.
this person is not meant for you.
Right.
If rejection can be a blessing that releases you to actually fulfill your vision, mission, and your values. So I think the practical steps for me to close this statement is men must claim that identity. It's an everyday process. Put a vision, mission, and values around it, and then begin to live 100% with zero compromise to that. And you're going to face a couple of things. Rejection is going to be real
Yeah.
because the more you stay true to who you are, there's going to be a group of people who don't want that energy. However, there will be a group of people who have been thirsting
Yeah.
and dying for it.
Yeah.
And that's where you add value. And that's where true living um, starts to happen.
Yeah. I agree. Totally agree. And you hit it right on the head because it's a daily thing.
Hmm.
Um, Life every day is its own section, its
Hmm.
own of your big story, of the story
Hmm.
God created for your life. You can't be focused on yesterday,
Hmm.
be stuck there. You got a new day. And the thing I told my wife is that, you know, focusing on things that happened in our past, we're trying to build something to go forward. We don't know what the future is going to be. We don't have anything that we can do about what's been past. So we
Hmm.
have now. And
Hmm.
now, if you think about it, is the future because 1 second ago was yesterday or
Hmm.
gone past. You can't go back and do. And so you
Hmm.
can only take minute by minute, second by second. And so you have now. So we had this
Hmm.
thing we say called, all right, we're gonna focus on now and the memories of now.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
What's past is past. Looking forward to whatever's next that can
Hmm.
happen a second from now is
Hmm.
the now. And so we focus on
Hmm.
now. But another thing, uh, that's why I added affirmations to
Hmm.
to this whole thing. It's not just encouragement, but then you have to be able to make, like you say, make that choice. This is the identity that I'm going to take on. And it's a
Hmm.
daily thing. So you need to be able to affirm yourself, even if
Hmm.
nobody else is affirming. Like you said, people will reject you because they don't want what is authentically you. They want the you that they can mold and manipulate.
Hmm.
It's just what it is. People look for opportunities, not all, but some people look for opportunities of how they're going to gain or grow
Hmm.
or get something from the situations that they have in their life. Not necessarily
Hmm.
to take advantage of you, but that's just who they are, based on this world system.
Hmm.
And then some of them may be that. But the point here is that you and I take on this identity. This is who we're going to be.
Hmm.
And daily we do this.
Hmm.
So as we
Hmm.
affirm ourselves, we encourage our own selves and have a community of people that we allow to be in our circle that are going to do that same thing. If they're not going the same
Hmm.
direction that we're going, it's going to make it harder for us to grab hold of that, claim it, and keep going. Not that you can't do it, but it's going to be harder. So affirming yourself and who you are, the identity,
Hmm.
like you said, this is identity I'm taking on daily
Hmm.
is a beneficial thing. There's one thing I say to myself when I get up. Every awakening is an invitation for me to manifest in the purpose that I've been given.
Hmm.
It's another chance. It's another
Hmm.
opportunity for me to be true to who I am, who I've been made to
Hmm.
be, and to do what I've been created to do. It's an invitation.
Hmm.
It's an awakening that I didn't do of my own self. Your clock didn't wake me up. So I'm clear about that. So I'm taking that identity based on that, realizing that, and I'm taking this I know is who I was meant to be. And I am looking forward to manifesting, to working toward
Hmm.
that manifestation. Well, in concert with God, I can't do it on my own. I just have to show
Hmm.
up available and and ready. And so as all men, we have to show up available and ready, not in any other mindset other than this is my authenticity.
Yeah. There's a that's really good. There's a couple of what do you call these blind spots, right? I
Mm.
think that I would like to address as we're having this conversation about claiming your identity and walking out in your purpose. I've come with a couple of them. One of them is that there's this term. There's a book. It's called Soul Rate.
Hmm.
Soulerape. I prefer to use the language of assault on the soul,
Yeah,
because I know rape is a traumatic experience and that
yeah,
can trigger a lot of things. So I prefer assault on the soul.
yeah,
One of the things that when somebody is claiming identity and claiming who they are, there's a balance of being careful of not letting our soul, our core of who we are, be assaulted as people are rejecting who
yeah,
we are, number one. And then on the other side of it, we have to make sure that the identity we're claiming is not assaulting other people.
yeah,
It's not, um, creating havoc and damage in other people's lives. And it should not do that if we have placed ourselves in the right environment. The identity that we're claiming should be bringing value because other people have to claim that identity with you. It would be like coaching somebody who doesn't want to coach.
right.
No matter how good of a coach you are, that relationship is never going to work out because they don't believe in coaches. They hate coaches. So they're not claiming your identity with you. So we have to really remember, a lot of men have done such a great job of claiming who they are.
Yeah,
The issue has been they haven't put themselves in environments where other people claim that with them.
right.
And that's where the discouragement comes in. That's where the heartache comes in. And you'll begin to notice as soon as they surround themselves with people who are like, yeah, I see you as a coach. I believe in you. I see these things in you. Oh my gosh, it's like a shot of feel good straight through their body, and then, like in your language, they begin to manifest that. They begin to do all because, and I think as a person of faith, if you look throughout the Bibles, even Jesus the whole time kept asking his disciples, who do you think I am?
Right.
Who do you think I am? Who do you think I am? Do you really believe I'm the one? Even he had to get people
Yeah,
to affirm who he is. So I love what you're saying. When you're claiming identity, you need that affirmation as long as you're not destroying yourself in claiming identity and you're not causing harm to somebody else's life.
mhm.
Yeah.
I-
And I think I wanted to add one last thought too. You talked about your past in your earlier conversation. You talked about the past. One of the things about the past, I have a Mac computer, and I believe you have one as well.
yeah,
On your Mac, you have that spinning wheel
right.
on the Mac, and I think when we look at our past, it's like a Mac spinning wheel.
Yeah,
We get frozen into the present. And one thing, yeah, we can't move forward because we're thinking about our past. And a mystery that got revealed to me with those who often look at their past, and I learned this through a personal experience. People who live in their past, genuinely deep inside of themselves, if they were honest, they don't believe their future is as bright.
right.
I'll say that again. They don't believe their future is as bright. They believe that that past thing was their final stage
What's the
appearance. That was
yeah,
their big moment. That was it. And so they're stuck there because they're thinking this was it. Because deep down inside, they haven't fashioned a future
yeah,
that could be possibly better than the
yeah,
past. And so that's one of the toughest things to do in claiming identity, in realizing my past is my past and my future is 1000% brighter than my past, 1000% better opportunities, 1000% better everything. And why is that? Because I'm leaning into my
yeah,
future with the core of who I am, and it's going to happen.
right.
I got two thoughts. I think one is this idea of deception that you mentioned. So one thought is this idea of deception. One of the things that I know, because having lived this, walking other people in it, Self deception is real, but I think what is equally as real, and I see them, self deception and
Mm,
societal rejection. I see them as
mhm,
interplaying loops. So someone rejects who they are, and because you've rejected yourself, how is
mhm.
society going to accept you? If you don't believe in your own self, how in the world? But then sometimes you get rejected from society, and that affects your self. And so deception or self deception comes through either you rejecting yourself or society rejecting you, and then you start
Yeah,
asking yourself questions. So I think to stop that loop, what I found is you really have to be sure in who you are and be open for
yeah,
yourself to evolve. That handles, and I say listen to your critics,
yeah,
ignore your haters, right? I always listen to my critics.
yeah,
I ignore the haters. And then the second thing I think is really important to this conversation as men is how do you monetize? Is that even like kosher? Is that even good to say monetize your purpose? Because at the end of the day, you got to eat. At the end of the day, you need to make you need money answereth to everything
I say
according to the
it's
Bible, right?
biblical.
You
That's
need
it's
money.
it is
Yeah.
for
So
it
so
from
how
the
do you?
point where it says a servant is worthy of his hire. Another, this is
Mm-hmm,
the problem. There's a whole different rant. This is the issue in the
mm-hmm,
church. The wrong view of Christ gives
mm-hmm,
us the wrong
mm-hmm,
view of ourselves when we realize that we are in Him now. People view Christ as being poor and humility
mm-hmm,
connected with poverty. And so they don't think of,
mm-hmm,
well, I got this witty invention, okay, which comes from God. He gave us the ability to acquire wealth, which means He's not giving you wealth necessarily. He's giving you the ideas, giving you the curiosity. It's just like
mm-hmm.
when you talk about manna.
Yeah, and one of the things that I say about that to, and as we work with people, is there's this prop there's this phase where somebody realizes this is it, this is what
Yeah,
I'm supposed to do, right? And what we've said is through experience, right? I'm not saying that this is gospel or anything, but for people to hold down some sort of financial structure, that it may not be what they
right.
want to do, or it may not be what I call it just
Yeah,
eating a humble pie. Like, you just doing this thing and this thing, whatever it is, at the end of the day, you get some kind of paycheck from it. And I consider that's funding, and then the other half of it, in whatever time you have, as you're building who you are, what you do. I tell people for a season, I say just do it for free. Whoever you are, if you're a coach, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't ever do that. The reason why I say do it for free, because if it's really about adding value, just keep adding value, do it. And at some point, the value that you're adding in the market of the real world, it's going to bear a value. It's going to bear a value. What do I mean by that? Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Caitlin Clark, if any of us watched, the NCAA championship,
yeah,
she was always that. She was always that. But at some point, it never drawed the value. At some point, she wasn't selling out tickets, but at some point, she just
yeah.
kept doing who she was, kept showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up. And at some point, tickets to see her
Right,
are no
right.
longer $20. It's 300. It's the most that they've ever charged in women's basketball. Why is that? She
Yeah,
just kept showing up as who she were, and eventually the market caught up. And so, just to inspire and encourage the men that are listening, maybe you're not receiving the monetary value when you're showing up as your true self in whatever stratosphere that is. Don't give up. Number one, have somewhere where you're just getting a steady, whatever that paycheck is, you're just getting it. It may not even be much, but you're getting it. And then keep adding value in what you do. And eventually, if your main goal is to provide value to people's lives and provide a service to people, eventually the market will catch up and you will be compensated adequately for what you really think you're valued at. It may take 4 to 5 years, it may take 6 to 7 years, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable, and I think that's probably the last thing, because I think it is a challenge to go from this is who I am to, but I got bills to pay, and I just want to add that monetization piece. And we have we have a thing where we work with different people, however, there's a part of there's we have like a 2 day self
Mhm.
discovery process where we actually take people through 2 days, um, to help them really discover,
Yeah.
like, who are you? And you think that, like, 2 days, yeah, it takes a 2 day process to really discover who you are. And, it's very spot on. And that helps people now hire someone like yourself, hire a coach to then help them, like, okay, this is it. This is my mission, vision, value. This is who I am. How do I now live this out every day with someone like a coach inspiring me along the way? But I do think it takes intentionality. It really takes intentionality for people to sit down and go through a self-discovery process. And from what I've learned, it's a journey that you do
Yeah.
with other people, and it's the best
Yeah.
thing somebody can
Yeah.
do for themselves.
You can't do it by yourself. You can't really coach yourself.
No,
So, and what coaching
no.
is not somebody telling you this is you being clear
Hmm.
and having clarity of what you need, what you're trying to work on.
Hmm.
And a coach is not more than someone that's a cheerleader that encourages, that says, "Hey, I have
Hmm.
some things here that I've learned or whatever. You can see if they're beneficial to you." I'm not saying this is the gospel or
Hmm.
this is the way that it's going to work for you. You have to
Correct.
be able to look at, kind of get some idea, discernment, if you will,
Hmm.
uh, and respond to what's moving you, what you feel in your heart, and what nudge you're
Hmm.
getting towards something, and understand that everything has
Hmm.
timing. Yeah, this is something that
Hmm.
I feel passionate. I want to do, and then jump in. This is my purpose or whatever. And from the monetization side of it is, yeah, it's not going to be overnight. And this is the thing that we in the
Hmm.
society we live in. It's not. We need to adopt the mindset of the original generations of, I work toward this, and the Bible talks about working. You know, it also talks
Hmm.
about uh, realizing that not to get weary, not to become weary in well doing. If you're doing purpose or whatever,
Hmm.
uh, there's a time that you're gonna be doing it, and you got to do it for free. And that's not what I'm saying. When I say about
Hmm.
monetizing, yeah, you
Hmm.
should monetize, but there's a timing. You do, you do. And
Hmm.
one thing I
Hmm.
used to tell my kids: do what you want to do. I mean, do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. So in other words, get you a job, take care of
Hmm.
your,
That's right.
build that into your core self, being responsible,
Hmm.
taking care of what you need to take care of before you consider doing things that may affect what you have coming in. You need to make sure you have a foundation of some stuff, that all the things that you need to take care of are taken
Hmm.
care of before you start looking to branch and doing something that you want to do. Make sure the core, the foundation, especially if you have a family, you need a job before you look to
Hmm.
do anything. First thing
Hmm.
God gave
Hmm.
man was work. He didn't give him a spouse and give him
Hmm.
whatever. Work was the first thing that he can
Hmm.
identify with, and so we should be. But everything is a timing. One of the scriptures I remember is in Isaiah. There's a scripture there. I think it's 60, verse 22. It says, part of that verse says, when the timing is right, God will make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord will make it happen. So everything has timing. There's a timing for everything. You need to be in the right place, because doing something in the wrong timing, but it's the right thing, still is the wrong thing. Doing something in the wrong timing, but it's
Correct.
the right thing, it's still going to be the wrong thing. Timing is important.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon talks about that. You know, there's a season to everything, and we need to be able to understand that. And so we need help uh, from one another in realizing those things. So you find people that trusted that you have around you, like you said, and go from there. But you have to grab hold of that.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourself with people who will grab hold of that with you. Who want to build. If you don't want to build and you go in this direction, you have to be have emotional or relational intelligence toward when it's time to quit something. In terms of,
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
this impacting where I know I'm supposed to go? Are these
Mm-hmm.
relationships impacting? Are these actions? Are these things? There was a time when I was younger, I wanted to be out in the in crowd and whatever. Then I realized, hey, that's
Mm-hmm.
keeping me broke for one. It's keeping me
Mm-hmm.
in deception because I'm not aware that you know these things need to be done. I need to get this done because I'm so clouded with what I want to do that I can't get what I need to do
Mm-hmm.
in place and taken care of. And so I had to realize that, hey, that's got to stop. Because sometimes you have to learn how to say no
Mm-hmm.
and be good with it and back away, regardless to how you're ostracized or whatever. And so these are those times, like you said, with when you get to the point where you can monetize, there's nothing wrong with it. But you have to realize that if
Mm-hmm.
this is what I believe. If this is really purpose, you'll do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe that
That's right.
from my time of
That's
living, you're doing it because you know. And purpose is not always the thing that you want to run to. Passion are those things. But sometimes, you know,
mm-hmm.
you might hate doing it, but you know that's where you're supposed to be. And that's what you're supposed to do. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that, if that's internal in you, you do it for free. So I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know I've helped you a long time, and it's been good. And man, I for one,
Mm-hmm.
I just miss conversing with you and the connection stuff,
Oh
man.
man, this
It's
was
always
great.
rich and it's great. And I'm hoping that we have this opportunity again to do so. And I know this is beneficial to
Oh
people who are
man.
listening with the ears of how to be encouraged around this thing and how to adopt some clarity toward, I want to be different. I want to be better. And I'm not comparing, I don't want to compare myself with others. I want to get better so that I'm better than myself, the self that I was yesterday. Not because I'm trying to be equal to
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. I'm trying to be equal to who God has, who God sees me to be. And that's the thing about that. He sees
Mm-hmm.
me in my finished state, and I need to be able to have curiosity to tap into that and trust Holy Spirit, trust what
Mm-hmm.
is being, laid out before me, whether living epistles or whether in the Word itself, or that's the guidance for me as a son, and for all other men. Just saying, we have a creator, there's guidance. We can't do this thing by ourselves. Community is very important, and that's what we want to do. We want to encourage each other in this. So, Daily, I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's been rich.
sure.
It's
No. Now, this is great. This was awesome. I want to, I think my last thought was, for the men that are listening here is, one of the quotes from one of my mentors, something he would often say is success today, if not maintained,
yeah,
is failure tomorrow. And so as you're seeking your identity, as you're seeking your purpose, whatever success you have, maintain it. You're always claiming that identity. You're always doing it, and it builds. So thank you. Any opportunity I have to be with your community, just let me know. Won't hesitate. This was really
great, great. I'm looking forward to it.
all
So
right.
have a blessed day, my brother, and
All right. I will.
and
I will. I
we'll
will.
we'll connect again.
We'll connect
God
again. All
bless.
right. Bless you. See you.